Welcome back to the Steelers Chat, everybody. I hoped you missed me. It was a bye week. We're back, and we have, I call him the Steve Harvey of Pittsburgh sports, Chris Carter of the Post Gazette and Locked On Steelers podcast. Hey, Chris.
What's up, D? How's it going?
Not too bad over here. Relax after the bye, but since we didn't get to talk about it, let's talk about this rivalry matchup. How was that one of the most AFC North battles against the Baltimore Ravens that you ever seen?
I mean, it fits the stereotype that comes with that rivalry, right? Like,
Right.
I'm not sure if it's the most or if it was, a top five, but that was old school defense, offenses making sloppy mistakes, but somehow still coming in, big moments. But I think what this could serve as is oftentimes when the Steelers and the Ravens beat each other, they're often turning points for their season. Like, for example, even way back to the 2000 Ravens when they won the Super Bowl with Ray Lewis and Jamal Lewis, and they had that great defense and everything. The last team that beat them was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that was after that they turned it on and figured it out after that. And over the years, you can go look at several different seasons where a win or a loss over one or both of these teams going at each other has often either flipped the season on for one team or shown the team what they have to correct moving forward and help them figure out serious parts of their game to help them get further. And we've now seen back-to-back times where these two teams have faced off and Kenny Pickett has thrown a game-winning touchdown pass late in the fourth quarter to bring them back for a win. And I think that the Steelers, they got the bye at the right time. They're getting healthy. It looks like Deontay Johnson and Pat Freiermuth should be ready for this Rams game. But I look at that matchup and I just think one thing that Mike Tomlin said years ago that still holds true is that these two teams make each other better through their matchups. And I think that was an example of that in this game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we saw a little bit of everything. It's all about defenses defending. You had fumbles, you had interceptions, you had sacks, and we had a little bit of razzle dazzle with a block punt, and safety. So that's something that we're not used to seeing. And that we got everything that we normally see with a little bit of sprinkles on top with the safety, which should have been a touchdown. I thought Hot Rod had the touchdown. What did you think? Did you think elbows were in?
I thought the part of his body touched out of bounds right as the other part touched in. I thought it was so close that the call on the field had to stay with the call on the field. I felt like that was a legit non-overturn from the officials. But had they called that a touchdown live, I would have said, you know what? That looks close. That has to just be sticking with it too. So I felt like that was a bang play, but a great effort on his part. Because him showing up there on special teams is good. And Miles Killebrew, I think that's his third blocked punt since he's been with the Steelers. Just it's remarkable how he keeps getting involved in plays like that. And in key moments, he blocked the Bills punt that helped the Steelers pull that offset 2 seasons ago. And here he is again, helping them pull off another upset. And, a big win that now puts the Steelers at 3-2. The Ravens were able to win over the Steelers bye week, so they've taken first place back. But now the Steelers still sit in second place in their division. And I think, D, in the long run, these type of wins, yes, they're not pretty. And yes, they could, if you don't improve, you'll end up still hovering around 500 at the end of the season, hoping, for some help to make the playoffs. But if you're able to figure things out late in the season, and the Steelers have a young team, and younger teams are usually the ones that get better by the end of the season because they're starting to coalesce a lot more. If you're able to get these wins now before you get there, you won't be playing catch up. Like last year, the Steelers were 2-6 through 8 games. They needed to go crazy as the season continued. They needed to go 7-2 the rest of the way to just have a shot at the playoffs. If they can keep it at, if they can keep it around 3-2 going into, let's say that they're 5-4 through 9 games, and they go on a tear in the second half of the season, that could be what puts them into the playoffs. Or if they start that separating time right now against the Rams in this upcoming matchup. So they're in a good place And I think it's important that the Steelers continue to build. They cannot have as many regressions. I thought they were building after that Browns win and then that Raiders win, and then they got smacked by the Texans. They have to limit how many times they take that far of a step back. Even if they lose, keep progressing with their young players.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of the tape is kind of showing you if their defense comes out flat, then, their offense typically always comes out flat. But if their defense comes out flat and they get, far enough behind, then it kind of just goes downhill all the way. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is just what does this offense need? I know you talked briefly about the health and Pat Fryermuth's practicing, Dan Moore's practicing, Deontay Johnson's practicing, Anthony McFarland's back out there. So they're getting closer to being healthier. But what can this offense do to get a spark in the first half?
I think one thing that has to happen is the offensive line has to be sharper
Mhm.
to work together to get off the ball. I think that if they can create more space in the run game, they'll create more easy yards, and then
Yeah.
that'll allow the Steelers to move the ball more consistently in games. The problem with the Steelers right now is they're having to really earn a lot of their yards with tough plays in tight situations, and Kenny Pickett needing to make some harder plays. But even when there's time schemed up for them to have the easier plays, they haven't capitalized on it, and that's my biggest thing. People complain about play calling, and everyone wants to fire Matt Canada. And I'm not saying Matt Canada should stay here past this season, but there's been plenty of plays where Kenny Pickett's had the opportunity to advance the ball right in front of him. There's been times where the read's been there and he's just missed it, or he's seen it and he's, overthrown it or underthrown it. And, I think that when it comes to this offense moving forward, if they can start taking the things that are given to them, this is just like, hey, the defense is in this alignment. This guy's going to be open pretty shortly after the snap. Those things happen with the Steelers and happen, I'd say not all the time, but I'd say at a decent enough rate that the Steelers should be capitalizing on it more, and they should be a more physical team with the players that they have on the offensive line. I think those are the things that have to change, and if they don't, I think it's gonna lead to the offense continuing to struggle. But getting the offensive line going, getting those easy yards on the ground, that can get the run game going, and then can set up play action for easier passes for Kenny Pickett, and then have that balance they've been looking for on offense to get things going.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree with you at all, and I think one of the benefits to what we have on tape from the last game is they stayed on the field a lot longer. The time of possession was extremely close between them and Baltimore. I think they had 29. I think Baltimore had 30, something like that. It was very, very close, and that's what they need, and that's why the run game is such a valuable component for them. You have to stay on the field. You have to give your defense a rest, and you have to be able to run the ball. I think the run game being successful will open doors. I know Deontay Johnson is a threat that's missing out there, and yes, that will open up the passing game, and most likely it will be short passes because that's typically when they don't. I don't know. We're not launching the ball down the field. We are every once in a while, but it just is what it is. A lot of the league's not doing that, so it's not a big deal to me. But you have to use the running game. I love what they do on third down with Jalen. I think that and soon this offensive line will be able to create more space for Najee to get the 3+ yards. And again, the running game is really where we got to push forward and to keep us on the field and not in third
Yeah.
and long situations.
Staying ahead of the sticks is something Mike Tomlin preaches about on both sides of the ball. One, you got to do it if you're on offense and and you don't want to keep putting your quarterback in tough spots. But two, you got to do it on defense to put your defense in the situation so that you can win consistently on third downs, getting after the quarterback, making them one-dimensional instead of two-dimensional. That's a classic football stuff that the Steelers have to do. If they do that better, I think they'll fail better moving forward.
Yeah, there are a lot of teams that are struggling in the red zone, and the Steelers have struggled in the red zone for what feels like a few years now, averaging 14.6 points a game, and we're going up against a Rams team that's averaging 23. 21 here to me looks like the magic number. The Steelers have to score about 20 to 21 points to win this game. Are there any matchups that you are looking closely at as we get ready to head to LA?
I mean, well, one in particular is who's going to match up with Aaron Donald up front,
Mhm.
because Mason Cole has not performed well. I'd say that he might be the worst of the five starters on the Steelers' offensive line so far.
Mhm.
We've seen him play better. I think he can play better. But one thing they're going to have to do is the Steelers' offensive line is going to have to focus on limiting what Donald does up front. Now, Steelers
Right.
have done that before, but they've gone up against Aaron Donald, and I believe it was 2019 when these two teams last met, and Aaron Donald was on the field, and they were able to limit him. They were able to find ways to double team him, make him so that he wasn't a featured part of that game. And that was a game with backup quarterback play. I believe it was Mason Rudolph. Might have been his second or third start in the NFL, if I remember correctly. But Aaron Donald was not the story of that game. The Steelers were able to make plays happen. If they can do that again, and this is a Rams defense that I look at, and it's not like the Rams defense that was winning a Super Bowl.
Right.
They
Correct.
don't have all the pieces in place right now. They don't have other pass rushers that are like Leonard Floyd, guys who were able to help Aaron Donald get after the quarterback. Their linebackers aren't out of this world. I think the Rams right now, they're feeling the impact of their salary cap situation from
Yeah.
all the investment they made to build up a superstar team to win a Super Bowl. And now that a lot of those players are gone and the dead cap money's been hitting them, they're going, and also just they sent away a lot of draft picks. They're starting to feel the repercussions of that. So this is a chance for the Steelers to kind of get right. If they can limit Aaron Donald and win their matchups across the board, this will start to let them go to work a little bit more on offense. But on defense, I think the Steelers, they have to be looking at this passing game.
Yeah.
Kyron Williams looks like he might not be playing in this game after a tough injury in the last one. That could be a break for the Steelers. But the Steelers, they went up against a backup offensive line for the Texans, and they didn't capitalize on that. They can't take anything lightly. Matt Stafford's still a great quarterback. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, we've
Mhm.
seen them light it up all season long. So the Steelers, they've been struggling with covering wide receivers, and especially top wide receivers. They're going to face some really talented ones. They have to be ready to counter that, and a better plan in the secondary to limit those yards so that their defense can keep things in check and let this game kind of stay in the punchable range that the Steelers offense often likes to be at.
Yeah. So I'll start on the defensive side of the ball for us. Yeah, we're struggling with wide receivers. We're struggling our secondary. And again, I highlight Minka Fitzpatrick, who who wants to be at the top of the team in tackles, and again is not where I want him to be. Thank goodness that he is, but that's not where you want your free safety to be. And Puka Nakua, and we all know what Cooper Kupp is capable of. And as he gets, his feet under him and getting reacquainted with playing back with the team, Puka Nakua is a new weapon that everyone's getting familiar with. So that will be a fun task for our secondary to control and maintain. And we have two guys that we're really familiar with, Kevin Dotson, who's been playing extremely well the last couple games for the Rams, and Akilla Witherspoon on the opposite has 2 interceptions on the season. He's been playing good in coverage. And those are two guys that kind of know us pretty well. And I'm excited for that matchup. But for some reason, I feel like the Steelers don't do good when there's like a revenge game type opponent on the other side. You see what happened when we went there with Kendrick Green and who was the other guy? Well, actually, Spillane played okay. Spillane didn't have like a horrible revenge game against us, but I mean, going in there, knowing Kevin, we traded Kevin Dotson, we released Akilla Witherspoon in the offseason, going in there and